Hi there, and welcome to another instalment of the Networth Network. Now you might remember in another video we talked about goal setting and the goal being to have your investments paying for your lifestyle. And we talked about building a pot to actually do that. Now this time we're actually going to talk about how to grow that pot. Jeremy's going to give a few strategies on actually accumulating it in the first place and hopefully building the dream. So Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, so the goal that we set was to be able to have enough income coming from your investments to cover your basic lifestyle, which is a really obvious sort of first rung on the wealth ladder. But most people sort of say, well, I'm struggling to even pay my bills. How do I get to that first step? There's a few things on this really. One of them is you've got to make investing a habit. You know, so it's got to be something that happens on a regular basis. If you want to get fit, you have to have a habit of going to the gym, and if you want to be skinny, you have to have a habit of eating good food and all of this kind of stuff. So setting a habit around your investment is really important. So if you pick a day every week that you're going to review your personal balance sheet, review your investments, maybe make a small investment, even if it's only another £100 or another couple of £100 that's going into these yielding assets that are going to give you the income eventually. It's really important to get into that habit. But there's a couple of things that I would focus on, and one of them is debt. Debt's pretty toxic. Debt in businesses and debt in your personal life. Quite often, instead of buying things we can afford, we buy things because we can get easy credit on it. So quite often you find people that are looking to, they might even be contributing already £200 or £300 a month into like an ISA or into some sort of savings plan, at the same time as paying £200 or £300 in car finance at 17% a month. So, the idea that you're saving something at a 6% return whilst you're borrowing money at 20%. 20%, yeah, it's really, really bad. And unfortunately, obviously, the debt industry is a huge industry. Banks make their money lending people money, and all the various other forms of credit that you can get are enormously profitable. I know I lend lots of money sometimes through various businesses, and one of the models that we teach is how you can use debt as an investment. But that's when you're playing banker. When you're on the banker side of the equation, it works really nicely. When you're on the consuming side of it, it's toxic. It's
and the world is kind of geared that way as well.
Absolutely,
isn't it, unfortunately.
and it's socially acceptable. Whereas in fact it's incredibly toxic to your wealth. It's incredibly bad. Even mortgages, honestly, are not always a great thing. Home ownership, I think, has got a little bit overrated recently, particularly if you want a big house, because with a big house, your yield is so bad, your asset allocation is just not clever. Sometimes you're better off selling your big house, buying half a dozen studio apartments that you rent out. You get a much better income from it, and then rent your primary residence, if that helps you with your asset allocation to get to this goal of having more money. So first of all, make investing a habit. Make it something that you do on a regular basis.
And just on that point, because if you're watching and you think, well, I still don't have enough money to actually create an investing habit, we're talking even if you've got a spare, £100, £200, £300 a month. Yeah. There's still something you can do. You can still be creating.
There's a famous guy who was a driver for UPS, and he never earned more than in his entire career. He never earned more than $14,500 a year in US dollars. Incredibly low salary. When he retired at the age of 65, he was worth over $50 million.
Wow!
Just from investing and compounding the interest on that. Now, waiting until you're 65 kind of sucks. Sure. I'm sure he invested a huge percentage of his money as he went through and compounded. Some people say Warren Buffett's so rich because he's so damn old. It's this whole idea of time is your friend when it comes to investing. So the sooner you start, the better. But also you should really look at some investments or some things you can do that will give you a quick capital hit, a sort of a quick capital yield. And the first thing to do is look around what you've already got before you look around something else that you can get. And if you look in your immediate sphere of influence, there's probably property, other assets like cars, boats and things like that, if you're lucky enough to have cars and boats and things like that. Other investments you have in other companies, perhaps your own company. What is there right now that you could liquidate and reallocate those assets in a more productive fashion. So take them out of things that aren't producing a nice yield at the moment, put them into other things. You know, I come across people who have got all their money in gold and bitcoins. Well, gold and bitcoins, okay, fair enough. It's a currency hedge. I get the rationale behind it. But you shouldn't be investing in gold and bitcoins until you've got 90% of your assets allocated in things that are generating income. There's no point in having assets tied up that don't generate income. So get into those first. Are there some quick wins that you can get that will give you larger amounts of capital? You know, buying a house or an apartment that you do up and sell to get capital increase, buying a piece of land, building on it and then selling to give you that capital increase. If you don't have the capital to do a project like that, what about acquiring a business that's in trouble? Something like we teach on the Harbour Club. So you could pick up a business that's struggling, turn it round and then sell that. That's a very easy way of starting with a pound and finishing with hundreds of thousands of pounds. In my experience, most of the wealthy people that I know didn't accumulate their wealth through that slowly, steady but sure strategy. They accumulated their wealth because they had these capital events in their career. They did deals. Something happened that created a big amount of money. However, you shouldn't just sit around waiting for a deal to happen. You need to have both horses in the race.
Don't be a lottery hoper.
Exactly. Yeah. So set the first horse off, and the first horse is the investing habit and treating your income and investing your income. And then the second horse that you need to release is going out and looking for the deal. Even if it's just taking a stake in a business and adding some value to it and then helping them exit, just to give you these 5 or 6, if you're lucky, 7-figure chunks of money that you can then really start to put to work and really start to change your personal balance sheet.
What we're talking about there are some quite specific strategies, and they are probably quite unique. You know, if you're perhaps a doctor or something watching, then you're not necessarily going to know how to acquire a company. If you'd like to learn that information, then obviously the Harbour Club is a resource that you can gain access to. The email that I said in the introduction is something that you should probably look into if that's of interest.
Yeah, I mean, if you email john@harbourclubevents.com, he'll actually send you some videos with a lot of information about this anyway. So you can probably glean enough from those videos to understand, you know, some of the strategies and how you deal with these types of businesses. So.
There's something else really important to just highlight with that as well. If you're able to allocate, say, even if it is a small amount, like £200 or £300 a month, then obviously you have that, a year's worth of that. You might be looking at, £1,500, £2,000. But don't forget that you're earning an income on that if it's allocated well. And so you actually get the compound effect of the interest that you're earning on your investments. And so by the end of the year, you're actually perhaps a further 20% or 10% above what you started with anyway. And you're always compounding. So if you're able to allocate your income, then leave the revenue that your assets give you in the investment pot, and you get a double compounding effect, which I think is also really valuable to add there. Anything else on this sort of building your pot and
No, like I say, there's two main methodology, or two main ways. One of them is getting chunks of money, which you can either do just by reallocating your current assets, looking at how you are deploying your capital at the moment, or if you don't have anything deployed, then looking at how you can quickly build value either through acquiring and selling something, or joint venturing with someone who acquires and sells something. And then the other horse that you have to have in the race is that investing habit, just doing things. And you can't do the investing habit until you've sorted out your debt. You know, if you're paying £200 a month in car repayments, that's £2,400 a year. That's the equivalent of having £20,000 or £30,000 invested. So it's pointless trying to invest money whilst paying those payments at the same time. So you have to come up with a way of either selling that car, paying it down, doing something different to get to the position where, go out and buy that car with the interest you're making on your interest, and you'll feel much happier.
So even if this is just kind of triggering a few things in your mind, ultimately you have to start changing your behaviours in order to start really capitalising on this. So what we're trying to do is to kind of give you some insight into the kind of mindset of an investor, and a very successful one. So please do heed this, re-listen to the video, If you've enjoyed this, then please do enter your details below if you haven't done already, and you'll be getting the updates from us, probably roughly once every week, a new video. And leave us your comments too. We'd love to hear your feedback, and any particular areas that you perhaps have questions in, do post them below, and we'll endeavour to answer them as well. Jeremy, thanks very much.
Cool.